Basically, I'd recommend communicate, communicate, communicate to your students, to your colleagues, to your employer, to your teachers. If we started to communicate more, we'd be able to reach our key stakeholders with much greater speed. Welcome back to Organist Launchpad. My name is Sarah Svendsen, and in this video, I will continue to talk about integrating organist occupational health and safety into organ playing and study. There are two larger categories to describe types of playing pain risk factors. These are cultural and physical. In another video, I cover some of the physical risks. For this video, I discuss 3 of many cultural factors in playing pain risk. The 3 cultural factors I'll review today are poor communication between key stakeholders, hand-me-down pedagogy and systems of operation, and blind spots in workers' health and safety. These are interrelated and have several common symptoms. These symptoms are isolation, lack of awareness, and limited engagement. One playing pain cultural risk factor is poor communication between key stakeholders. Prevention information sharing is not happening in part because of lack of communication between key stakeholders. Isolation can happen when poor communication encourages a survive or thrive environment in which these survivors are often siloed. The lack of communication encourages stagnant operating systems, resistant to change. Lack of awareness can happen in most instances when various stakeholders remain unaware of the risks and experiences of the individual organist, also encouraging a stagnant situation. Limited engagement is also common. Often, individual organists or employees experience pain while working, and they feel unable to change their habits. Music institutions are not always providing prevention education to students and teachers. Daily communication habits of musicians may not always reflect healthy attitudes towards injury prevention. Some examples of situations in which poor communication between the key stakeholders encourage occupational health and safety risk are not communicating injury, illness, family milestone needs to an employer, trope cultural phrases such as practice, practice, practice. These are not wrong, but to a novice or someone who has minimal injury prevention awareness, an additional safely, safely, safely could be quite helpful. Some suggested ways to help improve communication include that individuals start or continue to communicate their experiences and interest in pain prevention information and support in the workplace. Institutions and workplaces need to listen and respond to, as well as instigate, communication with workers. Workers and workplaces need to work together to create sustainable, supportive change. And colleagues need to encourage discussion around innovative ways to deal with the how of solving the larger problems which are encouraging organists to play while in pain. The second cultural factor influencing playing pain risk I will discuss today is hand-me-down pedagogy, in which workers and workplaces, these are institutions, teachers, and churches, are repeating inherited practices which have served them in the past without necessarily questioning if they continue to serve them to the same value at present or in the future. This factor is especially relevant to elite music education. Usually, part or all of an organist study happens here. Isolation can happen. Maintaining the status quo and being change-averse encourages survival mentality and individual siloing by participants. A lack of awareness can also happen. Most musicians make their living teaching privates, and yet many do not study teaching, let alone injury risk prevention. Of note here is that there's actually not a lot of organ-specific injury prevention material. Limited engagement is also common. In the survey responses, organists are aware of the concept of playing injury prevention, but have mixed information and responses to it in application and belief systems. Teachers were not reporting use of prevention materials as much as I would have liked, with only 2.4% reporting consistent use and 59.8% reporting occasional use. Some examples of hand-me-down pedagogy include playing through pain and continuing to do something as it's always been done, without asking if it can be done more effectively. Some ways that we can help pedagogy to include more prevention information is to encourage key stakeholders, specifically institutions and employers, to include assessment and course correction opportunities, which engage recent information and communication on playing injury into their management design. I also want to acknowledge that teaching what our teachers taught us is how this beautiful art came to be. We need to keep doing that, but we also need to bring in new information. Without questioning, without asking the larger institutions to provide us with up-to-date resources, we encourage the maintenance of this hand-me-down system and discourage modern growth and discovery. To really elicit change, we need to seek outwards for modern information which can inform healthy practice and learning. This information is relatively new and it will evolve over time, so finding ways to stay up to date is vital. We need to figure out what type of healthy work environment and procedures produce equal or better product to the inherited system currently in use. The third cultural factor I will discuss influencing playing pain risk is blind spots in organist workers' health and safety. These are areas which are not receiving enough or any attention by the various stakeholders involved, and can result from performance and product-oriented goals with minimal focus on quality of personhood and product creation. We see this quite often in the cultures of elite music lessons and church service presentation, in which the focus is on the best possible product. Also of note here is the experience of the individual organists from the survey. Organists communicated strong dedication and honor in relation to their job. They also communicated experiencing pain while doing this job. This is a workplace health and safety concern. Isolation can happen with this factor as well. Being the only person who knows the music and/or the job appears to be one of the main reasons organists are working while injured. Lack of awareness can also happen. The quality of professional organist workplaces is mixed and demonstrates a high level of worker influence regarding job duties, but also a lack of awareness of workplace health and safety information by these same workers. Organists are not viewing playing as working, and they are unlikely to stop playing due to standard workplace reasons to do so. Limited engagement is also apparent. No participants reported claiming workers' compensation, and participants are not hiring substitutes, and most report it is because there are none available, or because those who are available are not capable of covering their duties. Some examples of these blind spots include playing while in pain, and most participants reported this was a choice to play through pain in preparation for a work event. Participants reported prioritizing work-related music commitments over personal responsibilities like a child's birthday or graduation or a sick spouse. They also reported going to work unwell, not taking personal days, and a lack of contingency plan in the event of a needed absence for illness. There are some ways we can help to move these issues forward. Implementing change around risks in the organist workplace will require communication around organists' three key descriptors: honor, dedication, and pain, along with support and innovation. A lot of this communication will fall to organists to act as translators for their workplace. This is additional communication labor which will require time and energy. Workplaces can assist in alleviating some of this labor by helping to create procedural infrastructure which supports the organist's inevitable absence for personal medical needs. By the workplace requiring this infrastructure, it removes some stress from the organist feeling that they must petition for this workplace safety. Everyone can help workplace culture grow to include more cultural health and safety considerations. I'd encourage everyone to start asking more questions. Some examples of questions are, if I worked in an office building with an HR department, would this fly? Am I or is my workplace supporting the payment of professional musicians and organists for their work, even if it is a token amount? Is my workspace loud? Should I, or maybe my workplace, invest in some earplugs? Have I done everything I can to communicate the long-term sustainability needs of my employment? For example, a substitute plan or an oops, no organist pivot plan. Basically, I'd recommend communicate, communicate, communicate to your students, to your colleagues, to your employer, to your teachers. If we started to communicate more, we'd be able to reach our key stakeholders with much greater speed. we can find the breaks in the chain and build connections. I hope you'll join me for my next video, where I'll be speaking about physical factors in playing pain risks.